When I do with Scottish chamber or Baroque concerts, I always perform in the interval some Renaissance music with cornetto, with flute, with percussion. There's no time to be alone for 10 minutes.
Welkom bij Vlak voor de Gong, de podcast van Muziekcentrum De Bijloke, waar ik muzikanten uit de concertzaal wegpluk om het te hebben over een pre-concertrituelen. Mijn volgende gast is amper 36, maar heeft er toch al een goed gevulde carrière op zitten. Het gaat hard voor de Russische dirigent Maxim Emelyanychev. Deze week gastdirigent bij het Antwerp Symphony Orchestra in een programma met muziek van Mussorgsky, Szymanowski en Tchaikovsky. Straks heeft het orkest nog repetitie en concert uiteraard, maar nu maken we even tijd voor wat vragen over het belang van een dirigent, over hoe klassieke muziek moet klinken en of hij eigenlijk nog stress heeft voor een concert. Welkom bij Vlak voor de Gong en switching to English now. Hi Maxim, welcome.
Hello.
People who are listening can't see it, but you're wearing your sunglasses because unfortunately we have the one day in the year that the sun is out.
It's so happy day. Actually, I traveled through all Flanders this morning from Amsterdam when I visited my friends and the orchestra, and it's incredibly beautiful today.
It was all snowy this morning, so we have all seasons in one day.
Absolutely, it's so beautiful.
For the people listening who shouldn't know who you are, who don't know who you are, how would you introduce yourself?
I'm a musician, and it can be just the whole word to explain. And what I do in music, sometimes I conduct, sometimes I'm playing some instruments. For example, if most of the time I do conducting, of course, it's my first profession. I started conducting when I was a child, when I was 12 years old. And then I learned some other instruments like piano, modern piano. Then in the Moscow Conservatory, I learned what music can be performed in different ways, and a way how many people do now is historically performed practice, which I like very much. And it started with some master classes as well, and then there were some competitions. We were very close to Bruges. I remember it was one of my first Musica Antica competitions. And then of course different instruments, cornets. If you play Renaissance music, you need to play many instruments like block flutes. I do arrangements.
Does playing the instrument yourself help when you're conducting an orchestra?
Yes, absolutely. And I think conductors need to understand the physics of each instrument. And of course, if you be able to play instrument, it helps you. And since childhood time, I also played in orchestra, so I know a little bit how the orchestra works, how to count bars and how to play together. And other way around, if you're conducting, you are looking from a different perspective to the piece. When I play piano or other instrument, I think I play differently because I have different angles of vision as well.
What would you say is the primary goal of a conductor?
I think to inspire musicians, to inspire public, and to give your ideas, to play music, to say something with music, to make actual art, which is important to us today.
You mentioned that you immersed yourself in historically informed practice on playing on period instruments, of course, with Il Pomodoro, the orchestra you're chief conductor of. How does that affect the way you talk with an orchestra? Because you know sometimes the score as it is written isn't how it will be played with modern instruments. Does that affect the way you rehearse a piece, or does that the way you listen to a piece?
For me, it's important. Of course, it's important to use period instruments. And for example, you mentioned Il Pomodoro, my Baroque group. When we do all instruments, all historic instruments, with Scottish chamber, we do kind of mix instruments. We always do natural brass, and timpani and sometimes gut strings. Important to know how instrument sounds, and important to understand what you can do with those instruments. But then I think it's also important to play on each instrument with your ideas. And if you play great music, it works every time. For example, for me, Johann Sebastian Bach, if you play it on the quartet of saxophones, works the same good, because it's just great music.
I heard in a different interview that you like the antiphonal setting of an orchestra. So violins left and right. You're doing it tonight as well, or this week as well?
Yes, tonight is...
because of the Pathétique by Tchaikovsky. But Mussorgsky and Simonovsky as well are being played antiphonal. Does that change the way we hear that piece? Because I haven't heard it that much in that setting.
I like this setting not because of particular music we're performing, but because if I imagine myself sitting in the audience, I always like to hear very balanced sound. And for example, the violins, if they are stereo, it works for me always. Especially in Tchaikovsky, because they have this famous broken theme in finale.
With the exception of the Simonovsky violin concerto, it's a Russian program, Mussorgsky and Tchaikovsky. Do you feel that music differently in comparison with other Western classical music, or?
For me, each composer has its own style, and for me, Mussorgsky is so much different compared to Tchaikovsky. The way how Tchaikovsky writes his scores is very close to a classical European way of instrumentating, for example. And Mussorgsky for me is much more archaic and oriental in terms of sound, in terms of themes, harmony. Yes, so it's 3 beautiful romantic works. Each of them has separate sound, not separate, each of composers has their own sound and color.
And they blend perfectly together, those 3.
I hope so. Let's see after the concert.
Of course, you've been rehearsing in Antwerp all week. It's not your first visit with the Antwerp Symphony. It's the 3rd time. When you're coming back to the orchestra, do you have the feeling you know the orchestra, how it sounds, how they rehearse, how they can sound?
Mostly, yes. But each time I try to be a new person. I try to each time use new score and to do music without stereotypes of what experience you had before. I think it's nice to do because each day you are a new person, and important to try new things, to experiment.
The Antwerp Symphony Orchestra has a long-standing relationship with Philippe Hervé, who is honorary conductor. Can you feel that in the way they play?
Yes, they are very flexible musicians, and you can hear it, and it's easy to work. It's like with music, you speak with musicians on the same language. I find it quite easy, and I'm so pleased and happy this week with Antwerp Symphony.
We are now in Ghent, the first concert of 4 with the Antwerp Symphony. This is your first visit to the Bijlocke, if I'm correct. When touring with an orchestra or when playing a week with an orchestra, do you have the time to visit the different cities you visit, or is it just rehearsing, concert, and back to the hotel room?
I always try to find the time to visit cities, and yes, it's not my first time in Ghent. I played here once with B-Rock ensemble.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Here in Bijlocke, no?
With Ville de Frank, yes.
Ah, okay.
I think so.
Okay.
And I visited many times the fantastic atelier of Chris Mane, the pianoforte. He has fantastic collection of instruments. So yeah, of course I visited museum here,
Okay.
and I'm very happy to return.
You've played with a lot of ensembles as a musician. You've conducted a lot of different orchestras. Do you still feel stressed before going on stage? Do you still feel stress?
Not stressed, but excited.
Mm-hmm. I've talked with a few orchestra members and they love the rehearsals because they say you are so enthusiastic when talking about music. Is that the same enthusiasm, that joyousness perhaps that comes alive before a concert?
It can be different in the rehearsals because as I said in the beginning, the conductor is a person who needs to inspire the people, but also in the rehearsal he must be a person who just do basic things, like to work, how to play together, how to play in tune, etc., etc. So many moments in rehearsal you just divide between technique and art.
Back to the concert hall, is there a difference in conducting, standing for an orchestra and playing the music in terms of stress level, in terms of...
Not much. Just when you're conducting, you need to do right decisions if something happening, and each concert something happening.
Yeah. Which I always thought was very peculiar, is because, of course, as a conductor, you are the only person in the entire room who can't see the audience. So you have your back to the audience for the whole concert, of sometimes
not.
Sometimes not. Can you feel the anticipation from the hall, even if you're not seeing them?
Of course, yes. You can feel the reaction of the audience, and this is incredible. This makes music so much alive because of that you perform each time differently. Even two concerts in the same venue with the same orchestra, they're always different because of different audience.
Before going on stage, are there any pre-concert rituals you always do to prepare yourself?
Not really, no.
Okay.
Just try to not eat too much.
Not eat too much? Alternatively, what is the last thing you think about before you go on stage?
I cannot say. I don't know.
Are you so into the concert at that moment already?
Yes. Sometimes you can just, if you play with your friend, you can have some stupid discussion before, but it's just because you're friends, it's just ping pong with words.
Yeah.
But mentally, of course, everybody is with music.
Because I've seen conductors and musicians, they need to be alone for the last 5 or 10 minutes before a concert to get in full focus, but you don't. Absolutely.
For me, it's not necessary, especially if you perform different types of music. For example, when I do with Scottish chamber or Baroque concerts, I always perform in the interval some Renaissance music with cornetto, with flute, with percussion. There's no time to be alone for 10 minutes. And then if you play like 7 instruments during the concert, I did like 7, 8 of different kind of keyboards, flutes, cornetto, percussion. There's no time to relax.
Time to think about
it.
Yeah. This week you're performing in Antwerp and Brussels. What's next on the agenda for you after this?
Little concerts with Scottish chamber and some. Let me see.
You have a busy schedule.
I'm in the mood of today's concert. That's why I don't remember.
Okay. Because you are ping-ponging a lot of different things. Conducting, playing, or playing in chamber settings.
For example, Paris Chamber Orchestra, I will play chamber music as well and conduct.
And you're coming back to Belgium in a few weeks. First with the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment, and later a recital with Joyce Di Donato.
Yes, very happy to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a bunch of things and a lot of concerts.
Yes, different programs, different emotions.
Yeah. One final question. What would be your ultimate bucket list item? What do you want to do in your career? Is there a certain hall you want to play, a certain orchestra you want to play with, or a certain repertoire you haven't touched yet?
There are some repertoire which I didn't do much in my life.
Such as?
such as Mahler, for example. I think only time I did it was my debut with Concertgebouw Orchestra, when it was a week after Bernard Haitink died.
Okay.
And they asked me to perform before official program Adagietto from Mahler 5. So I hope to develop my repertoire into many directions.
Yeah, okay.
But I already do quite
many
centuries of music.
You do everything from Renaissance to modern day music already, so filling in the gaps, perhaps. Okay, Maxim Emelyanychev.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this conversation.
Thanks.
And good luck with the concerts.
Thank you.
Even een kleine correctie die we tijdens het gesprek zelf niet opmerkten. Het project met B-Rock en Ville de Frank passeerde niet in de bijlokken. Emelyanychev is in 2022 voor naar het schijnt fenomenaal recital met Joyce Di Donato en Il Pomodoro tijdens het Festival van Vlaanderen Gent. Ik zie hem zelf ook extreem graag bezig voor een orkest, want zijn liefde voor muziek is niet alleen hoorbaar, maar ook heel duidelijk te zien, zelfs van op de rug. De muziek die je vandaag hoorde zijn fragmenten uit Tchaikovskys 6e symfonie, de Pathétique, samen met het Antwerp Symphony, opgenomen hier in de Bijlokken. Dit was Vlak voor de Gong, een podcast van Muziekcentrum de Bijlokken. Vond je de podcast leuk? Laat dan zeker een review achter op Spotify, Apple of YouTube en deel je liefde met vrienden, collega's en familie. Bedankt om te luisteren en tot de volgende keer.